Jai Hind everyone. Today we are going to discuss about this topic, that is Indian Parliament, its composition, powers and functions. Actually, this is part of one of the topic of third year B.Tech students of Abdul Kalam Technical University, Uttar Pradesh, and the course code is KNC 501. So it is one of the important topic of second unit. So let's start with the parliament. So what is parliament? Parliament, its simple meaning is that it is firstly derived from the French expression parlement, which means speaking, and Latin word parliamentum, which means talking. So it has come to mean meeting for discussion. So this is a place where meetings are going on with the ultimate objective of discussion. Firstly, why do we need parliament? Parliament basically for any country, it is like our country, which is very vast. It is having very large area, having very large population, around 140 crore peoples. So in such kind of countries, what will happen if we are not having any policy? We are not having people who are basically responsible for making policies, for making for the benefit of common man. So at that time it would be of no use of such people. So here firstly what we are doing, here we basically need a place, we need place like this parliament in our country, which is located in Delhi. So there people, they join together, they come over there, they discuss about various policies, various problems from which our country is basically facing. So in such situation what happens, that we are having people who are basically elected, by we people, we common men, and these people, they basically take decision in behalf of we people. And here generally what we get to see, that there are large number of areas in which urgent policies are required. We have finance, we have telecom, we have defense. So in all sectors basically people, they are basically appointed and they basically help in formation of policies. So if we talk about composition of our country, so here we are having a bicameral system. So what it means here, it simply means that it shall have two houses. We are having two houses in our parliament. First one is the Lok Sabha, which is also known as the House of People or the lower house. On the other side we are also having another house, that is Rajya Sabha, which is also known as Council of State or upper house. But it doesn't mean that upper house is having very high powers. So we will discuss about all these things in later slides, that why do we call it that upper house and lower house. And here what we are also getting to see, that we having president, and president is a person who is an integral part of the parliament. So here we have bicameralism, it simply means two house system, and we are having first Lok Sabha and second Rajya Sabha. So in Lok Sabha, they are the people who are basically directly elected by we people. We people vote, we common men, we vote, and then a person who has got maximum number of votes, that person automatically win in a constituency. On the other side, so this is the reason why we are calling it House of People, because these are the voice of we common people. On the other side, when we talk about Rajya Sabha, here what is going on, it is known as Council of State or Voice of State. So if suppose states, if they are basically having some issues, some problems, so a separate representation is given in parliament through this Rajya Sabha. So in Rajya Sabha, the people who are elected through states, what they do, they basically discuss about problems related to their respective states. And third one is the president. So president is the person who will finally sign on all the bills which have been passed from Lok Sabha as well as Rajya Sabha. And after signing of president, that bill becomes law. So these are some of the characteristics of our parliament. Firstly, that we basically adopted this Westminster model. Actually, Westminster model, why it is named this Westminster? Because there is a place in UK that is known as Westminster. So we basically adopted this word. Secondly, basically we know that this was a model which was basically adopted by Britishers in their own country as well, and they basically ruled around 200 years on our country. So ultimately we were very much habitual, we were very much aware about how this kind of model in actual works. So at the time of adopting our constitution, our constitution father, he basically realized that we should very much adopt this particular model. Second is the bicameral structure, which we have already discussed, that we have Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha as two houses. Thirdly, the responsible government. So responsible government simply means that we are having a cabinet, and that cabinet, that council of ministers, they are very much responsible towards the legislature. Next is cabinet is the nucleus of power. Now, so firstly, what is cabinet? Cabinet, we may also call it council of minister. So in that cabinet, what in actual happens, there are some people who are given various ministries, various portfolios, like telecom, like finance, tourism, aviation, mining, commerce, defense. So various areas are present. So in these areas, what happens, that people who are elected in Lok Sabha or people who are elected in parliament, they are given certain responsibilities, that you have to basically manage affairs of this particular area. So that cabinet basically comprises all such people, and here what we get to see, that they are the people who are ultimately going to bring bills related to their respective areas. So when they bring their bills, so ultimately what is going on, that we know that more than 500 people, they are elected in Lok Sabha and more than 200 people in Rajya Sabha, but it's still in actual who are having actual power, and that actual power is basically held by the cabinet, because cabinet is having finally power. What power? That only they can bring bills. Next is the PM. He is first among all, or primus inter pares. See, it simply means that he is the captain of the ship. He is the person who has in actual made this cabinet, he is the person who has in actual given these people responsibility about various areas, about various sectors. So totally this cabinet is in control of PM. So PM is the first person, he is the captain of the ship, or we may say captain of the parliament. Then nextly, the real executive and nominal executive. Actually in India we have two posts. First one is the Prime Minister and second is the President. So Prime Minister is in actual the real executive, the real head of our country. This is very important thing, that he is the real executive, and on the other side, if we talk about President, he is the person who is basically working on the aid and advice of PM and cabinet. So our president, he is a person who is considered as nominal executive. Then nextly, the majority rule. So majority rule simply means that in our country, basically what happens, the party which is having maximum number of seats, that party basically gets chance to make government in the center, or the party which is having majority in Lok Sabha, that is in actual having power to make government. So here what is going on in our country, if we talk about present situation, that here we see that NDA government or BJP, it is having more than 50% seats of Lok Sabha. So that is having right, or that has in actual made government in our parliament. The next is dissolution of lower house. Here what we are getting to see, that dissolution word is only associated with lower house. It is not associated with upper house. So here what is going on, only this lower house, only this Lok Sabha is in actual dissolved after a particular time period, but on the other side Rajya Sabha, it never dissolved. The next is the political homogeneity. What it means, in actual, whensoever a party wins, then what it tries to basically appoint members or people in cabinet from its or its aligned party, rather than basically giving some powers, giving some ministry to opposition party members. And so this will basically lead to homogeneity. So to avoid future conflicts, because there is possibility that opposition party person that may basically doesn't work as per the ruling party. So to avoid such kind of conflicts in our country, what we find, that political homogeneity, it in actual exists. Now question arise about the sessions, when these meetings will in actual take place. So in our country, basically whensoever PM he realized that we need to basically we need to have a session in our parliament. So he basically advises, he basically says to our president that now you should summon to member of parliament, that they come in parliament so that these sessions should be started. So here what will president do, he will simply give a summon to all the members of parliament and they will basically come. So in our country, basically what we see, that we have three sessions. First one is the budget session, which takes place between Feb to May. Secondly, the monsoon session, which takes place between July to September. And last is the winter session, that takes place between November to December. And here there is also possibility that in case we can also avoid one session if we feel that we are not having so many bill which need to be passed. But important thing is that there shouldn't be gap of more than 6 months between two sessions. Now let's start with Rajya Sabha. So Rajya Sabha, that is the Council of States, it is the upper house of the Union Parliament and it gives representation to the states of our country, giving representation to the states of our country. And however, the states do not enjoy equal representation in the Rajya Sabha. Actually, when this constitution was formed, so at that time what was realized, that what kind of system we should adopt. We should be a purely federal system or we should be a purely unitary system. So our constitution's founding father, he basically realized that rather than adopting 100% federal characteristics or 100% unitary characteristics, we should try to create a balance between these two. So here what happened, that we basically adopted a kind of quasi-federal structure, quasi-federal system in our country. So this Rajya Sabha, it is in actual showing that characteristics, that not only the people who are elected, they are having power, they are having they are permitted to basically raise voice in parliament. Beside this, also the states, they are also given their representation in our country through the Rajya Sabha. So Rajya Sabha is in actual the voice of the states, but here what we are getting to see, that the states, they do not enjoy equal representation in the Rajya Sabha, and these have been given representation on the basis of size of their population. Now what does it mean? So we know that in our country there are some large states. We have large states like Uttar Pradesh, we are having Rajasthan, we are having Maharashtra, we are having MP. So these states, they are having very high population. So the people who are basically sent through these states to Rajya Sabha, they are comparatively far higher than the people who are basically elected from the northeast states like Assam, Meghalaya, Arunachal Pradesh. So this here what is the reason behind it? That is the Indian population. Now if we talk about composition, then the Rajya Sabha, it can have a maximum strength of 250 members, and out of these 238 are to be representative of the state, and the remaining 12 members, they are to be nominated by the president from amongst persons who have achieved distinction in the field of art, literature, science or social services. So here what is going on? The 250 members at max, they can be basically sent to Rajya Sabha, and out of these 250 members, 238 members, they can be from states as well as from union territories. Union territories like Delhi, like J&K, like so from such union territories as well, that few people, they are basically sent to Rajya Sabha, because union territories, they are having comparatively lesser population, so less number of people would be sent to this Rajya Sabha. And here what we are also getting to see, that president is also having some power of choosing, power of selecting remaining 12 members, but these 12 members, they should have some knowledge. They should have knowledge about art, they should have knowledge about literature, science, social services. So here what we are getting to see, that not only states, they are getting a voice, but also people belonging to such areas, they can also come, they can also join Rajya Sabha, and they can explain about the problems which these fields they are facing and what government can do for such areas. Now the method of election. So the member of the Rajya Sabha, they are elected indirectly. So indirectly simply means that we common people, we are not giving vote for Rajya Sabha member, and the people of each state elect the members of their state legislative assembly, who then elect the members of Rajya Sabha by a method of proportional representation and a single transferable vote system, and each state legislative assembly elects as many representatives as have been allocated to it by the constitution. So here what is going on, that we people, we common people, we basically vote for state legislative assembly members, and these members, they basically in actual vote, for choosing Rajya Sabha member. So indirectly Rajya Sabha members, they are basically elected. And here what we are getting to see, I think in schedule 4 of our constitution, number of seats, they are mentioned, that from which state how many Rajya Sabha members would be appointed. If we talk about qualification, so first of all, that person should be citizen of India, should have the age above 30 years, and he must possess all other qualification as laid down by the parliament. Beside these qualifications, next thing is that person shouldn't hold any office of profit. So this is an important thing, because in case if a person is basically elected as a member of Rajya Sabha and is also basically holding any office of profit, then that person's membership will automatically disqualified. Besides this, that person shouldn't be insane, so that person should have sound mind and shouldn't bankrupt. Besides this, he shouldn't have disqualified under any law of the parliament, and now any person residing in any part of country can contest election to the Rajya Sabha from any state. So a conflict was going on earlier that in one state, is it possible that a person is sent to Rajya Sabha from one state, from that state that person is not belonging. So here through this Kuldeep Nayyar versus Union of India case, it was finally discussed, and in that it was finally said that it is allowed that any other state person can also be elected from a particular state as Rajya Sabha member. Now if we talk about this tenure, so it is this Rajya Sabha, it is a quasi permanent house. Even when we were discussing about parliament characteristics, what we saw that in parliament we found that only lower house it can be dissolute or dissolve, but here what we are also getting to see that in Rajya Sabha it will never be dissolved, so it is a quasi permanent house. Now how it basically a permanent house? So here what is going on, it is not subject to dissolution as a whole, and 1/3 of its members retire after every 2 years, and elections are held only for the vacant seat. So when we'll discuss about comparison between Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, then what we find, we'll also find that the tenure of the time period of Lok Sabha member is 5 years, and for Rajya Sabha member it is 6 years. So here what is going on, that in every 2 years, what happens, 1/3 of its members they get retired, and then elections will take place on these 1/3 seats, and then people would be elected from their respective states. If we talk about the sessions, so the parliament convenes the session, the president convenes the session of the Rajya Sabha, and it usually along with the sessions of the Lok Sabha or whenever he feels it necessary. However, there cannot be a gap of more than 6 months between the two sessions of the Rajya Sabha, and the president can call a special session of Rajya Sabha for getting approved an emergency declaration at a time when Lok Sabha stands dissolved. This is an important thing, and this is also showing its importance, because there is also a situation, a condition may take place in our country, that suppose that we are basically indulged in war, and at that time our Lok Sabha is already dissolved. So in such cases, how president will basically get it approved? So for getting approval in case if Lok Sabha is already dissolved, so at that time our president, what he can do, he can basically call a special session, and in that session through 2/3 majority, that bill that of emergency can be passed. Then if we talk about quorum for the meeting of Rajya Sabha, so it was also realized that how many people should be present in Lok Sabha or in Rajya Sabha, so that it should work, or in case if less than that particular limit people they are present, then when we shouldn't basically work or bill shouldn't be passed. So for that a simple formula was basically adopted, and in that it was said that if less than 1/10 member are present, so at that time Rajya Sabha will not work. So minimum or at least 1/10 of the members of the Rajya Sabha must be present for carrying out the work of the house. The next is the privileges of members. So certain privileges they are also given to Rajya Sabha members. So firstly, they enjoy unrestricted freedom to express their views in the house, because what is going on, they are the voice of states, so they are given basically power. What power they are given? That they can basically speak anything which is important for the state. So it shouldn't be that there isn't any kind of restriction of these people, that you people are permitted to speak only on these topics, and such topics you will not going to discuss. So it is not going on in our Rajya Sabha. And secondly, no any action can be taken against them for anything said by them. Beside this, in case they cannot be arrested for any civil offence during and 40 days before and after the session of the Rajya Sabha, and for protecting the privileges of the members of the House, the Committee on Privileges has been in existence since the inception of the Rajya Sabha. So certain privileges which are given to member of Rajya Sabha, that in case if any civil offence take place and there is requirement to arrest such people, then it is not permitted. These Rajya Sabha members, they cannot be arrested before and after 40 days of that particular session of Rajya Sabha. Now the question arises that who will be the chairperson? So firstly, the chairman and deputy chairman. So the vice president of India is the ex officio chairman of the Rajya Sabha. Actually, it was basically realized that in Rajya Sabha there is very high possibility that some states which are having majority, like UP, like Maharashtra, like Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh. So there is possibility that if chairman is elected from such states, then what would happen? There are very high chances of bias. So that person may be, that chairman may be biased towards that particular state. So here what happened? To avoid such kind of incidents, here the vice president, he is basically considered as the ex officio chairman of the Rajya Sabha, and he is not a member of the House. So here it was realized that that person shouldn't be member of Rajya Sabha, and however he presides over its meetings and conducts its proceedings. And during the absence of the vice president, the deputy chairman of the Rajya Sabha presides over the meeting, and the deputy chairman is elected by the Rajya Sabha member of parliament from among themselves. So here what is going on, that this vice president, he is not member of Rajya Sabha, but here the deputy chairman, he is or he can be from Rajya Sabha. Now the question arises, what is Lok Sabha? So the Lok Sabha, it is the lower house of India's bicameral parliament, and with the upper house being the Rajya Sabha. Member of the Lok Sabha are elected by adult universal suffrage, and first past the post system to represent their respective constituencies, and they hold their seats for 5 years or until the body is dissolved by the president on the advice of the Council of Ministers, and the House meets in the Lok Sabha chamber of the Sansad Bhavan in New Delhi. So here firstly what is going on, that person is in actual from this Lok Sabha is in actual the lower house. Secondly, but lower house doesn't mean that they are having lesser power. Even in some areas we find that Lok Sabha is having upper hand, like in money bills, and these people of Lok Sabha, they are basically elected through adult universal suffrage. And basically we know that the time duration of Lok Sabha is 5 years, and after that it gets dissolved. This is the Lok Sabha. So the maximum strength of the house envisaged by the constituency of India is 552, which is made by the election of up to 530 members to represent the states, and up to 20 members to represent the union territories, and not more than 2 members of the Anglo-Indian community to be nominated by the President of India. And if in his or her opinion that community is not adequately represented in the house, so here 530 members from the states, 20 members from union territories, and not only people from states and union territories are chosen, here 2 people from Anglo-Indian community, they are also given their representation in our country. Besides this, the total elected members is distributed among the states in proportion of their population, and a total of 131 seats are basically reserved for representatives of scheduled castes and scheduled tribes, and the quorum for the house is 10%, which is similar to Rajya Sabha. This is our Rajya Sabha, and working is going on. Now the term of the house, so here term is 5 year, and here it can be extended at the time of proclamation of emergency. So in case if emergency take place, so this 5 year it can be extended to 1 year, and even for the 6 months after the proclamation has ceased to operate. If we talk about comparison, then firstly, that motion of confidence against the government can be introduced only in Lok Sabha but not in Rajya Sabha. Secondly, the Rajya Sabha has no power over such a motion and hence has no real power over the executives. Thirdly, the money bill, it can only be introduced in the Lok Sabha and upon being passed are sent to the Rajya Sabha, where they can be deliberated on for up to 14 days, and if not rejected by the Rajya Sabha or 14 days lapse from the introduction of the bill in the Rajya Sabha without any action by the House or recommendation made by the Rajya Sabha are not accepted by the Lok Sabha, the bill is considered passed and the budget is presented in the Lok Sabha by the Finance Minister in the name of the President of India. So that's all about today's topic. Thank you.